Hi guys, and welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be looking at some records. So on a Friday it could be a chat about an artist, an album, some of my drum stuff or cymbal stuff or a Q&A or whatever. But today I just decided to grab a few records that I've got hanging about, because some people often ask me questions about what's in the background and why I listen to a certain artist. And I think I said on the Kate Bush one, sometimes people say, well, you're a drummer, why do you listen to Kate Bush? What the hell has she got to do with drums and stuff? Which is just a bizarre thing to say, but it's what some people say. It's a bit daft, but there you go. So I've done my Revolver t-shirt, and obviously the anniversary Super Deluxe album is coming out soon, remastered, and I might even do an unboxing, which I know is already filling the internet and YouTube. People are doing it already, but anyway, I may do that. So I've just literally grabbed a few albums and I'm going to pull them out, talk about them as we go, why I bought them and why I think you should listen to them and so on. So here we go. So the first one is Catherine Williams, Night Drives. Now I discovered this on a sort of deep dive down a rabbit hole on Apple Music a couple of months ago. And I heard a few tracks and I just thought it was a stunning album. And it turns out now that a friend of mine, Emma Holbrook, is actually going out on the road with Catherine. And she'll be in Bristol in a few weeks' time, which is going to be amazing. Singer-songwriter kind of stuff, but also, you could say in a sort of folky kind of contemporary kind of way, but not afraid to use, synths and effects and so on and so forth, which, for me really sort of was a nice twist, because obviously the songs are fantastic. Her songwriting is brilliant. Her singing is fantastic and the delivery is superb. But it was nice to have some of those other instrumentation coming in around what you could think could be presented in a certain way. So and I'm actually getting a lot from this. It's a good reference point for me for when I'm looking at working with some female artists and stuff. So if you don't know Catherine Williams, she's been around for a very long time, and I've only just caught up with this, so I've got a lot of backtracking to do. But it's just an amazing album. And I'm not sure who the drummer is on the record, but he or she obviously does a fantastic job and it sounds brilliant. But I just not only like the songs, as I say, I like the soundscape that she uses, just fantastic. So check this one out. Okay, next up, what have we got? Talk Talk, The Spirit of Eden. I'm a huge Talk Talk fan, have been for many years. They're just, what can you say? They go from like an 80s synth pop band doing things like The Party's Over, that first album, and the second album, It's My Life. And of course, It's My Life was a huge hit for somebody later on. I can't remember who it was a hit for, but that was a massive hit and people know it from her version. I can't think of her name now. I can see her, I can't think of her name. But I really prefer obviously the Talk Talk version. And then from It's My Life, they went into their next album in '86, The Colour of Spring, which is what most musos start to, pick up on from that album onwards. And then you've got Spirit of Eden, and then finally Laughing Stock, which is around as well somewhere. And this album is the start of them getting a bit more surreal and stretching the songs out and certainly staying away from singles and the sort of pop sound. And on Colour of Spring, they start using, instead of just synths, they're using Hammond organs, Fender Rhodes and Wurlitzers, and double bass, and they're changing the sound up completely, using recorders on one song. And even though the songs are still sort of 3-4 minute long songs, they're starting to just get a little bit more interesting sonically, because in '86, we're kicking off with Linn drums, which I love. And I think there's a Linn drum on a few tracks, but mixed in with the live drums, a bit like Prince would do and stuff like that. But the soundscape they're using is just really pure and kind of old school, almost 70s mixed with the 80s, and it's interesting. And on this album, they take the idea even further. But Mark Hollis, what a fantastic singer and songwriter. And the drummer, I think it's Lee Harris, is superb on all of the records. But certainly on these last few albums, he's playing some really interesting stuff, playing grooves that just loop and they just go round and round and round as kind of more rhythm tracks than like a drum track. It's kind of, they're pieced together, but certainly on Laughingstock, some of them are pieced together just to kind of be going on in the background, almost like an arpeggiated guitar or something, or keyboard line might do. It's quite fascinating. So as a drummer, worth checking, but just as a music listener, amazing. What have I got next? Keely Smith. Now, I know very little about Keely Smith. I went to Carnival Records in Great Malvern. This is brilliant. I'm looking over there because I've still got their bag over there from the shop. Got one of their sort of canvas bags. And I saw this and I picked it up because I saw that it was on Capitol, which is always good. And Nelson Riddle and his orchestra was on it. So, hey, it's not going to be too bad, too shabby. As I say, I know very little about Keely Smith, but some of the songs on here are classics. What is this thing called Love, and so on, and Stardust, and The Man I Love, Someone to Watch Over Me, The Nearness of You. I still haven't looked up much about Keely Smith, but just picked it up. It was only maybe $2.99, if that, maybe two quid, and it's just fantastic. You know, drummers looking at playing, maybe fed up of listening to the Sinatra big band stuff. Though I've got the box set up there, the Capitol box set. Check out this. You know, and female singers looking for someone else who maybe isn't the obvious Ella and Peggy Lee. Keely Smith is a good place to go. So just a really good listen. Can't recommend this album highly enough. It's superb. What have I got next? Catherine Wheel, David Byrne. I love David Byrne. In a way, I wish I was holding up My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. That's my ultimate favourite ever. David Byrne release, and that's with Brian Eno. But this is great too. This is from a show called The Catherine Wheel, which he did music for. There are some Talking Heads certainly took some of these songs, and if you know Song, I was going to say Song Remains the Same then. If you know Stop Making Sense, I think it's Big Business, and possibly one other, I can't remember. Oh, What a Day That Was is in that movie as well. But yeah, Catherine Wheel is fantastic. Great drumming on here. Adrian Bello is on some of it, and Yogi Horton is the other drummer on here. And they are both superb. And I wouldn't like to call one out above the other because what they both give to the tracks is amazing. But it's a great record, great rhythm tracks. It's not like a Talking Heads album in any way, but if you know things like Remain in Light, that's very heavy on the rhythm side. Some of these tracks kind of just go on, but the rhythm tracks are quite heavy and quite complex at times. So there's that. But I would really recommend My Life in the Bush of Ghosts. That is the one for me. The Doors, classic album. I really love. I've only got this in like LA Woman box set that came out a little while ago, which I put on a video somewhere down the line. I love the Doors because, you know, people always say to me, "Oh, they were jazz and they were this and they were that." The thing is, here we go. We're going to start getting people saying, "Oh, hang on a minute, I'm going to start put the cat amongst the pigeons." But basically, you know, for me, the Doors, I've checked out some of the other records, and you know, they never go completely down that jazz route because I don't think they could 100%. They didn't know enough about it. But I always feel what's exciting about the Doors is that they just took it to the limit of what they could do. So, you know, yeah, we know John Densmore like John Coltrane and was an Elvin Jones fan and all that sort of stuff. It's great, but they never go full on jazz. And I guess if you don't know much about jazz, even if you just hear that keyboard going on a bit and stuff, you think, oh, that's jazzy. But it doesn't really ever, it sort of knocks on the door, but it only goes not even halfway in. But that's cool. I'm not saying that's why I like them, because if it went down that route and got really jazz muso, it could have got a little bit kind of like uncool, especially, you know, when you got Jim Morrison with his sort of poetry and all that business. And it was cooler they stayed on this side of the fence. So, you know, I know that thing about them being jazzy is it can be a thing for some of the fans, but for me, the fact that they didn't go too jazzy because they couldn't is what saves it for me. You know, we had plenty of that fusion stuff in the 70s, and it's subjective whether it was good or not. But, you know, I kind of like where they went with it. And this album's just really exciting. Crystal Ship is just brilliant. Soul Kitchen, Break On Through, Light My Fire, Backdoor Man, Take It As It Comes. Oh, all of it is just brilliant, isn't it? Exciting record. A band on the edge, doing something new at the time. The only reason I haven't got the other albums is I will get around to it, but I when I've been listening to them on Apple Music or whatever, they've never spoken to me as much as this one. And LA Woman just seemed to say stuff to me that I thought, hey, my ears pricked up, and I thought, oh, my muso kind of level went very high, and I was like, oh, I've got to check it out. My radar was on. Whitesnake, okay. Live in the Heart of the City. It's a double album, 2 different bands. One was from 23rd of November 1978. I can't remember that drummer's name. I'm going to keep this going, so I'm not going to look. And the other side is the 23rd, 24th of June 1980. Now that band is the band which had Ian Pace on drums, John Lord on keyboards from Deep Purple, Mickey Moody, and Neil Murray, and it's like the classic kind of, what I feel is the classic Whitesnake lineup. And I've bought most of their albums, you know, and looking back, I suppose they were a little bit not NPC, but whatever. But it was of its time, and David Coverdale was doing that Love Hunter thing, and it's cool. But both albums are great. I mean, this side as well with the other lineup is great too. But my favourite is this one. There's some great drumming on this, and I just think the songs are good, and it was of its time. And if you're looking at some blues rock drumming, Ian Pace obviously with Deep Purple is great, but also his playing with Whitesnake is slightly different. It's not as busy and it's more laid back, and also his playing with Gary Moore is good too. So Whitesnake, Live in the Heart of the City, great record. If you're going on a journey that's a couple of hours and you want to put in some racking tunes, this is the one. Great. And the whole band sounds superb, and David's on his game. Rumour, or Rummer some people say, but Rumour discovered this artist back in 2013 or 14, whenever that was. Just a quick sip of Mr. Noisy. There we go. I saw her on Jules Holland, and I thought she was fantastic. And I bought the first album on CD, and then Into Colour come out, which was the second album, which I also bought on CD and had it in the car, and eventually played it so much and had it in the car and travelled with it so much that the whole thing just shredded away, I think, into nothing. But eventually bought it on vinyl, and it's actually not a great pressing, I have to say. I'm not sure why. When I looked online, there was other fans moaning that it was a bit noisy or whatever. And I'm not a massive audiophile. I mean, I haven't got top grade gear down there particularly. It's a very mid-price record deck. And a reasonably good old-fashioned amplifier, a trio amplifier from the 70s, but it's not top flight. People say she's like Karen Carpenter, but Karen Carpenter with more of a soul band kind of backing, and you've got Ash Sohn on drums and Sean Pelton. So, you know, the pedigree of drumming skills on this album is sublime, and some really interesting drum sounds. Both of them had really thought about, probably with her, the producer as well, and her, about how the drum should sound, and some really, really great snare sounds and tom-tom sounds. So when I'm working with a female artist in that sort of style, I go to this album as a reference, and I think you'll enjoy it. You know, you could say it's good background music, but it's better than that. It's just a really great record, and I think she's a stunning artist. So there we go. Brilliant. B-52s, Rock Lobster. Rob Lobster, as some people call me. This is great. I love this band. They're sort of anarchic kind of, heroes for me. I love the fact that around this time there's lots of very complex music going on, and they're coming out with songs based on 2 or 3 chords and nailing it and making it sound exciting. And sometimes when I'm in the studio dealing with working with a band, whether as the drummer or maybe of coming and producing or co-producing and helping out, and it's all sounding a little bit polite, where I think it could have an edge, I make them listen to this and say, check this out, all right, this might be going the other side of that, but I think there's some excitement in this music, and I think that the fact that it's like a real garage band, they just got together and were like, let's make music with what we've got. It's just brilliant. I just think it's superb. All of the stuff they do has got character, it's got wit, it's got personality, and originality, and it just sounds superb. So, songs like 6060842, which is just a phone number, and the members. Oh, it's raining. And the members of Lorena's band, sometimes when we were in the dressing room, we'd play tracks from this just to unwind before the gig started, just have a bit of fun. And we'd all be singing 6060842, and I'm waiting for you. And it's just fun, but it's kind of clever at the same time, though I think it's not done in that way. It's very naive. Their first, couple of 3 or 4 albums are very naive, and then later on it gets a bit more polished. But I just think it's great. So as a production reference point, I like coming to this because it's just, let's just do it. 2 chords, let's do it. Let's just have some fun. Let's not make it too clean. If it speeds up, slows down, doesn't matter. It's about the attitude. And this album, there's tons of it. And the famous tracks on there are Planet Claire, 52 Girls, Rock Lobster. I mean, what can you say? B-52s, yes. David Bowie, legend. This album's fantastic. I love the drum sounds on this record. I won't go into how they made some of those snare sounds, but you should watch the documentary on YouTube about it. And I think it was on BBC 4 about this Berlin period. So the Berlin period is where Bowie goes over to Berlin and starts working with Brian Eno, and Tony Visconti's there as well. But I love Heroes. I mean, everyone knows Heroes. It's great. Some great tracks on that. I've got that over there somewhere. But I really like this because side 2 is all instrumental stuff. And as a Gary Newman fan, when I heard this, I realised where Gary put 2 and 2 together to make 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not only with the hair and the look, even though I know this is from the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, but Gary Newman's Replicas image was similar to this kind of vibe. And the fact that side 2 on this album is all instrumental with synths. He, to be honest, he said he was a pioneer, he was, but he was borrowing from Kraftwerk and people like that. So he was sort of borrowing, but he, like any genius, he put it into the right sphere, into your style and your music, and you make it happen for you. So side 1 is brilliant, some great songs on there. But side 2 for me is the thing that made me go, oh, some of those instrumentals, like Warsaw is amazing. And there's a great caricature, a cartoon type thing on YouTube, taking the mick out of that, but it's quite funny, and I'm sure Bowie would have found it funny himself. But side 2 is just awesome. And let me just have a look. I can't remember what's on side 1 off the top of my head. So let's have a look. Something always crashing in the same car. New career in a new town. Speed of life, that's the instrumental, which apparently had vocals on to start with, but he preferred it's the instrumental. Breaking Glass, What in the World. Sound and Vision, of course. God dear. Be My Wife, that's a great one too. So if you don't know this album, check it out. It's great. This copy is an original, but it's not in great nick, and it jumps occasionally. But anyway, Bowie. And Bowie, I'm not a fan of everything. Some people say to me, I know you're a Beatle fan, but I don't like it all. And I go, that's cool. So this sort of middle 70s period for Bowie is like mid to late 70s, is my favourite. The Berlin period is what gets me going, whereas the Ziggy Stardust, I haven't really got into that yet. I like the later stuff, Black Star and some of that later stuff is brilliant. But yeah, I never really got into the glam period, which is quite a big part of his career, and I guess you had to be there. I don't know. Maybe one day I will. Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. A difficult listen. I haven't always found this an easy album, but I just love, for me, the way that Miles was sort of throwing away what he'd done before, like he'd always done in 5-year kind of increments. But this time it was with the electric stuff. He was hearing Sly and the Family Stone and James Brown and stuff and thinking, I want some of that action. I want to play in front of thousands of people at rock festivals. And he employed a bigger band, went more electric, and made this record, which, as I say, is quite a difficult listen for some people. But I just love the neck of it, the gall of it. It's just like, yeah, this is me. This is what I'm doing now. I'm going to blow my trumpet through effects pedals if I want to. That's where it's at. So Bitches Brew, it's exciting, Get yourself a bottle of wine or whatever, sit yourself down and give it a listen. It's just a great sounding record, and some great musicians on it. We're moving fast now. This is good. No.1. German band, sort of, I think they call it krautrock, that kind of style. I always feel awkward saying that, but amazing album. It's not a double album, it's just a single. Again, I don't know an awful lot about them because I just heard the music, and sometimes that's all I want. As I've famously said all the time about my fave band at the moment, Dry Cleaning. I know nothing about them. They don't even know their names. I just love the music, and I promote the music and talk about them all the time. Same with this band. I just know when I heard this, the first track was a bit more kind of groove oriented, I say groove, it just had this pulsing sort of crack rock, what they call crack rock groove going through it. And it was using analog synths and guitars. And it didn't really jump out until track 2 or 3, which was suddenly got this sort of mellow. I'd been listening to some Brian Eno chilled stuff, and I suddenly realised that, I'm getting, there's sort of a correlation between these things. And they were influencing each other or whatever. And then the album took a very different turn. And there's some punky style songs on here as well, where it just goes for it. So Noise, almost like 3 bands in one. They go from different, almost like movie soundtrack vibes, from each track. And I like that. I like the eclecticism. Eclectic. I like it being eclectic. Pharoah Sanders died not long ago and made this album Floating Points, with the London Symphony Orchestra, and the album's called Promises, I believe. Isn't it? I thought it was. It's just a great record. I think it's awesome. Let me check out yeah, I think it's called Promises. Why is it not saying that anywhere though? Or have I completely misread the whole thing? Anyway, I found this on a deep dive one night of ambient music. Again, I don't know much about Floating Points at all. But I just know that I love this record. It's just amazing. And it's a great sleeve as well. Yeah, Promises, I was right. Anyone taking time to look at their artwork in, 2021 and 22 like that, that's got to be a good thing. So if you like your very, very minimal ambient music, you like to be served that, then you're going to love this. Pharoah Sanders comes in, and I was thinking he was going to play Way Out all over it. He does at times, but it's not. He's such a good musician. It's suited to the music. He never blows his horn in a way that, is like, oh, for goodness sake, I've got to take the needle off. That's not the sort of musician he was. Whereas I know some people feel that way about some of the Coltrane stuff. But and some of that I've got to be in the mood for too, if it's the later stuff, but I still love it. But this is great. Analog synth sort of sound with the orchestra. I mean, what a lovely mix of electric and acoustic instruments that is, plus the saxophone. And they're just movements. There's 2 movements, I should say, obviously 2 sides to a record. A movement aside was what I meant. So movements 1 and 5 is on the A side, and movements 6 till 9 is on the B side. I really dig both sides, but side 2 I think is my favourite. I think it's 7 and 8 really blew my mind. Just great. So Floating Points with Pharoah Sanders, Promises. Getting to the end, Art Tatum, Lionel Hampton and Buddy Rich. Now, people often say, Buddy was a loud drummer, all he could do was solo, he couldn't play in a band, blah, blah, blah. It was all about him. I was going to listen to Art Blakey or someone. Yeah, fine, that's all good, I get it. But this is an early album where he's playing brushes. He plays sticks on a few bits, mostly brushes, as I recall. And I think it's Making Whoopee or How High the Moon, I can't remember which one it is. It's just stunning. Some of his 8s and 4s with brushes are just unbelievable. So I got this for £7 actually. It's on the Pablo label. Got it in a second-hand shop in Chippenham, which isn't there anymore. A record shop, and it's not there anymore, unfortunately. But you can get this on CD, and obviously you can get it on MP3 or whatever. On Apple Music and all that. But it's just a great sounding album, hearing Buddy in that setting. And it's not solos every 5 minutes either. It's just really tight, nice trio playing. Talking of trio, Bill Evans with Paul Motion and Scott LaFaro. This is my favourite of the classic albums that they made. And they're all classic, they're saying that. And I've got them all on CD. This is the only one I own on vinyl because I loved it so much. It's called Explorations. And it's got some versions which become classic on here. Some tracks like Israel, Elsa, Beautiful Love, Nardis, which I would play a lot in trios when I was gigging around Bath and Bristol, doing the jazz circuit. Bill Evans, what can you say? Just the most beautiful piano player. Uses space, uses touch, some lovely chord voicings. Just amazing, just a genius. And then you got Scott LaFaro on bass and Paul Motion. And Paul Motion, what a drummer. He's starting here to start to break out a little bit. The first albums, he's kind of doing what you would expect. And when you get to this one, he's starting to develop his style a little bit. And the hi-hat's not always there as much as it would be on 2 and 4 when he's playing brushes and stuff. He's starting to get a little bit more abstract. Nowhere near where he'd get to by the end. But, it's a journey, isn't it? And this is a kind of stepping stone on that journey. So as a music listener, you want some trio jazz, this would be a great place to start. And for musicians, whether you're a jazz musician or not, this is worth listening to, just to hear how three great musicians work together. And if you're a drummer, jazz drummer, well, you'll have it anyway. And if you don't, check it out. And this is the last one, Electric Light Orchestra, the very first album, I believe. I remember hearing track 1 off of this, which I can't remember what it's called now, but and it just blew my mind, because it was, I love the artwork as well on this. It's superb. What is track 1? Let's have a look. Need better glasses as well. Oh, Something Overture. These aren't my best glasses, so I'm not going to try and embarrass myself by staring at that label anymore, like with the magnifying glass. But I just remember hearing it and thinking, my God, that sounds like some of the goth bands that I'd hear later on. It was something about how heavy the cellos were just ridiculous. And, Jeff Lynne always said that he took on the Beatles' string sound, their sound from White Album onwards, and just made it sort of, and of course they were around as the Move at that point or whatever, or the Move was going. And later on, they started to get into the Electric Light Orchestra, and I don't know what year that is, but 70 something, I think. 71. And they just made that string sound, like on the Walrus, the cellos and all that, a lot louder. And put electronic guitars with it, with a bit of a heavier sound. All of a sudden you had the Electric Light Orchestra, which would get more poppy as the 70s went on. But this album, I call it a heavy album, you should check this out. It's quite a record. And it was quite cool that when I found out Jellyfish, who are one of my favourite bands, really were digging. I knew they dig, Mr. Blue Sky and that kind of period of Yellow, but I didn't know they were really into this until I saw one of the rockumentaries about them, and they said that this album was a big turning point for them and a big reference. And it is a great record. Not necessarily a drummer's record necessarily, but hey, a lot of these things I'm pulling from as a non-drumming point of view, just as albums and as music. So I hope you enjoyed that. Bit of a random, going through some albums. Maybe I've sort of piqued your interest on a few of those and you want to go and buy them, would be great. Or just stream them and check out what's going on. So as I say, thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe and do all those kind of things. There'll be another pad video next Tuesday, and there'll be another video this time next Friday. I don't know what that one's about. I haven't picked what it is yet. But thank you for joining me. As always, if you want to send me any questions, please do so. Like and subscribe, and I shall see you soon. Bye.